So we will go ahead and call this work session of the mayor and council for the city of Snellville, Georgia for Monday, March 9th, 2020 to order. First, we can go through the regular business meeting. I need someone for the invocation.
What about Brian? He never done it.
Which one?
Invocation.
Might pass on that.
I'd say Dave. I'd say Dave.
Tony
Dave
will
would
do
do a
it.
fabulous job, I'm sure.
Tony always does a fabulous job.
Well, my priest got him to church, so it's a step in the right
Oh,
direction there.
really?
Well, not for church.
Wait, what?
Not for church.
What, the fish fry?
Oh,
No.
Just to eat?
no, the
No,
Mardi
for
Gras.
the gala that we
gala.
had.
The Mardi Gras, that's different.
Food and beverages.
And Butch will lead us in the pledge. We have the minutes to approve. Bill Kingsbury is on for planning commission. The first reading for the rezoning in CUP. Got a couple of things that came up on this when we were talking upstairs, and one was the fact that the property was clear cut. And they've been cited for the trees that were taken down, and that issue, where are we in the resolution of that, or what's going on?
An NOV for that, which is basically to provide a tree survey of what was destroyed. We sent Johnny out there. We marked the trees. They delineated the difference between the buffer and what was on the property. And we should have that within the next couple of days. And then we have to figure out mediation. Where does it go back? Either way, they have to rebuild that buffer. So originally, we were gonna handle that through the rezoning, but we've made them two separate issues now, so one doesn't hold up the other, and vice versa. So regardless, once we get the plan and the replanting plan, we'll review it and we'll proceed to replanting.
So will we be collecting our $900 a day per tree?
That's the rule.
Okay.
I haven't cited them yet.
Well,
As soon as you get that
as soon as you get it, you need to sign it.
inventory, I'd like to see that moving forward.
That's not, I mean, we haven't done that every time with every person. Typically, if they act in good faith and repair, it's true.
Yeah, but it's
So
already
coming in
happened
and
now.
clear cutting to the property line is in good faith?
No, when they remove the trees, if they respond to the removal appropriately, we don't
Okay,
immediately
all right.
cite them. If you want to
No,
put it in
no,
there,
okay.
every tree
That's
drops.
fine.
The only thing that concerned me was and I think separating them is the right thing to do. I think they're really unrelated. But the tree thing should be handled much quicker than the zoning. It would concern me to take non-compliant properties and then start granting zoning requests before the compliance is you know.
Well, the only reason it was approached that way is because most of the trees, or there's actually only 2 trees in the buffer that were cut down in that 60 feet. The trees that are on the property, if they were allowed to develop, anything under 24 inches or 26 inches can be removed during the development process with basically no fine. You just have to meet the deep tree density on your unit. Now, because there was a potential for a development permit to come up, there was gonna be a tree planting plan, the buffer was gonna have to be probably added to or taken to anyways, so those trees that were removed that were under 24 inches aren't necessarily, they wouldn't count towards them against them anyways. If they were to develop the property, they can cut all those down if they want, as long as they meet the new code. Now, the buffer, actually cutting in the buffer is different because that's an undisturbed buffer, and then obviously it's been disturbed. That's why the time period was pushed for those outside, all the 2 trees that were outside the buffer. So that's why it was attached to, we were gonna condition that the buffer be replanted a certain way in the zoning action, and then that the site be developed per the code, which they would have done during the development process.
So this is more information than we were talking about upstairs. The normal operations, they they did a couple of things wrong. They started clearing before they had permits.
Correct.
So that is the beginning point of their wrong. And then if they had waited, there's not anything in the tree area that they couldn't remove and substitute for in that planning process.
Right, for the majority of the trees were removed outside of the buffer. The buffer was essentially removed by taking all those vines down, and I'll send some pictures out everybody so you can see it. And then 2 trees, 2 stumps, a 6-inch and like a 5-inch that was actually cleared outside of the buffer, which are basically off limits.
Right. So recommendation would be, if we're gonna punish for the non-permitting clear cutting, which I think surprised people, then it would be come up with your landscape plan very quickly.
Right.
And make sure it's
Right.
really good before your
Right.
zoning comes up.
Right.
There's gonna be
And we've
issues.
received those. We've
And-
got those on.
And my issue is, if the zoning were to fail, he's already clear cut the property. And then, so I
Well, at that point, you move into the aggressive enforcement, like if they don't plan per the plan they've already submitted, then, then you cite them every day.
yeah, but it puts us in a position where, the zoning issue becomes, if we were to turn it down, then it looks like it's punitive because, and then we start enforcing.
But
No,
Mr. Warner, just, see if this is, it sort of blends the compliance, is that if they need to come up with a plan that's if granted or if not, if it's denied, so that there's no pressure with regard to the tree ordinance, with regard to your action. So they've got a time period where they're in compliance regardless.
Okay.
of what you choose to do.
Have they given any indication they're gonna withdraw?
No. I mean, the owners that did the, clear cuttings on record is understanding that he has to build it back, and that was at the planning commission. They understand that, and the buffer will be there regardless. I mean, they're gonna have to fix it, withdrawal or not, or
Yeah.
approval or denial.
Yeah, okay.
So we're still doing the wave tonight on that? The RC?
Mm-hmm.
And just if you chose to, you could put an extra incentive inside the waiver by waiving it subject to, there has to be a tree plan in place before the second read, or it's not gonna be taken up. It's acceptable to council. You can enforce what you're upset about inside that motion so that it gives your planning director some teeth.
Right, and they have submitted
They've got a buffer plan.
a
already.
buffer plan with the development.
Well, regardless.
Okay.
And I'll make sure they understand that.
Okay.
The whole time the message is being clear. So they know, the buffer plan, they're gonna end up with a better buffer regardless.
Okay.
And I'll send out the exhibits we even got today, that kind of showcases the buffer area specifically that we requested from, the applicant's engineer, who's been on top of it for the most part.
Based on the whole discussion though, the staff needs some direction from the council on future zoning here. If you don't want that type of use on 78, we need to move it to industrial down,
Well,
I mean,
the-
manufacturing down.
The discussion, and please correct me anybody if I'm wrong, the discussion and the way it's written in our comp plan is that node, that area, we wanted to transition to retail, commercial. No, not, it's just retail, commercial's taken out. Commercial would be the transmission shops and the car lots and that sort of stuff. So,
I think the thing about it that bothers me is it butts up to residential. And, one of the goals of our 2040 comp plan was to protect existing neighborhoods. And I don't think putting this type of auto repair business
Especially down that
backs
close.
up
Down in
to
that
a
area.
residence is protecting neighborhoods.
well, and
That's my objection to it. I would never want that behind my house.
So outside of this particular zoning though, as far as, just so we can understand the uses kind of thing, the policy is, like right now that's zoned VG, so you can put a fast food shop in there, you can put a grocery store, you can put in a Waffle House with an all-night drive-through up to 60 feet of the property. So the commercial intrusion is kind of, it's a separate issue as far as just allowing it versus not. But if you guys don't want like all those conditional uses like minor and major engine repair, and you want to remove those from HSB zonings, which is the highway service business, which was basically built for 124 and 78 in the past, and move those into like a more industrial use, like what we have on Lenora Church, in just those places, and that's no big deal. All we do is slide them right out of HSB. We're also gonna wanna look a little deeper into HSB uses, because those uses coincide directly with the commercial retail future land use. And that's how zonings get set, is by the future land use. So right now, the future land use is commercial retail. So highway service business is an allowed zoning within that land use. So all those uses within HSB could be potentially backing up to residents. So if you wanna, remove some of those the more profane ones to the residents, and we need to shift, either we can move highway service business out of the commercial retail land use category, or we can take more of the extreme uses, or the ones that you feel like are more, more harmful to residents, and then we push them out of that altogether and put them in LM. But we have to do it, kind of under that line of thinking, so it's done the right way. Because had that not been allowed, had that use not been in HSB, we could just say, look, this is where all these go. And HSB has been a part, it's kind of like the county C3, and it's for highway service businesses where you have a robust kind of commercial, and that's kind of how 78 grew up. I mean, it grew up with, first a little retail and then all the other stuff. And if it's not appropriate now, we can fix it. We just have to remove that land use association. So and we're at a spot where we're a good spot to do it, because UDOs
I think
can
we
still
should.
be manipulated. And we can move, we have to redo the comp plan land use table, and that's probably the most important thing to go kind of refresh, is look at the land uses. And whatever land use, it coincides with a specific zoning. So if the land use is there, and then the zoning is there, it's hard to kind of deny a use within that one if it's already kind of has the blueprint. So we're gonna have to change that anyways, because we've got some new codes coming in, some new zoning districts, so those are all gonna get moved around within the next 3 months. So take a look, and if that's the will, we can draw all that stuff back. We just have to do it there.
Well, and that's why I was surprised to see something that was coming in HSB, because I distinctly remember sitting around the big table and asking Tony, going through the map and counting how many we had and where they were of HSB, and saying, we constitutionally have enough of those, and the answer was, yes, we do. So we don't have to allow any more. No, you should be good.
Well,
Okay.
so you wanna discontinue the zoning?
Well,
HSB
No, there's zoning.
The intensity of,
I think it was, we have HSB. Do we want to keep considering HSB for future use? We want to keep the class because they're HSB zoning now, but just not show it on the future land use plan anywhere is what any places where it's not been developed.
So what you're basically saying is remove it from the commercial retail land use and
Right.
put it in light manufacturing.
You would show it where it exists in a current use on there, but nowhere else. You wouldn't show it as a future land use.
Yeah, we don't, our future land use map, we didn't change any, so none of them got brought up to
Right.
HSB, only what's existing. But if you wanna, cease the future growth of them, then you need to remove the association from the land use table, right? From commercial retail?
No, you would have HSB zoning in place, and those, I'm assuming, if they burn, you would let them be compliant, and it would show in the future land use map and in the current zoning. So you would have it, you wouldn't have excluded it from a use or a potential future use where it actually exists today. You'd still show it on there. You'd still have the classification, you'd still show it, but everywhere it's not developed, you don't.
No
take
new
it off.
HSB areas.
But I think what Jason's
Yeah,
saying
right,
is,
So
right now in the
commercial
land
retail would
use,
just become
under
easy.
just the general
Right.
commercial
That's what I'm trying to
retail
say,
Yeah.
To do it,
area, HSB is allowed. So we need to take that link off.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I would come up
yeah.
with its own little code.
well,
for
I mean, it
HSB.
just needs to be taken out of that commercial retail land use, which is pretty much all of 124 and 78. So that was, that was kind of through the comp planning process too, and that wasn't necessarily something that we heard precisely. If that's what we want to ratchet it back, we can, it's no problem.
Yeah, and on this one particular property too, you've got, one building right up at 78. I don't know that I'd have that much heartburn if it were right up at 78, like that other transmission spot,
Yeah,
you
well,
know? But this is like all the way down in the
I
back.
think
It's
the
just weird.
setbacks back there, if you're talking about BG, is a 65 feet. So you'd have the 60-foot buffer, and then a 5-foot buffer setback for any use where adjacent to it. So it could be, all kinds of uses 65 feet back. So I think in their minds, right or not, is getting it off the highway where nobody likes to look at it down in the hole was better. But then to the residents,
Yeah.
they don't think it's better. So, it's like, again, it's a balance.
Yeah.
They could build a new development up to 65 feet of that lady's property line. So I think that's kind of where they were trying to, steer the conversation. But that's how we got to where we got as far as the land use, the zoning, and what's allowed. So the blueprint is there for it, so if we wanna break the chain, we just pull it out, which is fine. So think about that, we're gonna be redoing the table in probably 3 months and make it match again with all the new codes, and we can fix it. But that's-
Job security.
I'm ready to be done with all this.
Okay, anything else?
Do we need to do, just let that happen, or who initiates getting that made?
Well, I
Change
mean,
me.
the UDO, we can move it now, but as part of that process, like I said, we've got new zoning districts that we have to relate to future land use designations, so it's like, we have to change them anyway.
Okay.
So it'll all get done at once, and we can even get some.
Yeah,
We
just so it
probably
doesn't
need to be
fall
able to
through.
sit down and look at the map and see exactly where we have what on a future land use so that we can figure out if we need to maybe come up with a different designation, if there's some areas that we wouldn't mind it going in.
Right, that's another layer to
Yeah.
it. You could add another zone, and that's why I think Gwinnett does the way they do C1, C2, C3, and it was kind of what we had, BN, BG, HSB, same system, but kind of as the uses have changed, the zoning ordinance didn't really change as the uses have evolved. We're actually dropping BN because
And under the new business, all we have is the surplus of some police vehicles
4 vehicles.
and a public works vehicle.
Awesome.
Okay? Any
Easy
other,
enough.
any big questions or discussion on that?
So the marshmallow's gone?
Is that,
Is that the
that's
marshmallow?
public
It's
works, I
marshmallow.
don't think it's the marshmallow.
Marshmallow will never go away.
I use it all the time.
It's a classic.
It is. You don't get much respect on the job site though.
I thought when I saw on there a Prius, I was like,
Toyota Prius,
Yeah.
2002. Who wants it?
Okay,
Now's your
Eric
chance.
wants it.
ongoing project list.
Not a lot of changes, a lot of work behind the scenes. Town center discussions have been ongoing. We'll have a little executive session item, a little update for everybody. We've hit a couple of question marks in with some of the parties, and hopefully we can overcome those in the next few days. There is an update meeting scheduled for tomorrow with basically all parties at the table.
Are we supposed to attend that? I wasn't sure.
Well,
Only if you want.
you were invited, and
Okay.
I think we need to keep it to 3,
No, I was planning on being there.
We're out.
And I'm not gonna be there.
So the rest of us can
Yeah.
be there if we want.
Okay.
Good deal. We're
Such is life.
kind of consolidating departmental budget requests. And what you'll probably get from me are two different budgets. One with the requests. When we had the retreat, you asked department heads to come and kind of go over their budget requests. We'll have that opportunity. And then you'll have a slightly more conservative budget to review. So we're kind of consolidating those. Census planning, I think that's going very well. A lot of outreach, Solange. I hope we have success in the end.
Let's hope.
Do a lot of people come by for questions Saturday?
Not as many as I anticipated.
At the market?
Yeah, not as many as I anticipated.
Yeah.
This was the glorious display that we were able to put up.
Your picture.
But, oh, well, it was about that beautiful. That was it. I would like for us to support Solange a little better than just a table and some, I mean, whether it's a sock to go over the table or a banner that could
Or
attach to the
something.
sock that says,
We have one of
Census
those, but I think
2020.
it's more
It's in that.
economic development oriented.
well, even a city logo, and then we could get a banner printed that says Census 2020 or something, because just standing there next to a naked table is not
You need to,
marketing.
contact, Norcross. They,
There's stuff
at
that goes
the
with that.
Gwinnett Municipal meeting on Wednesday, they had some of their complete count committee, the two women heading it up, came and gave a little talk about what they're doing. They went and pulled the census tracts in the city of Norcross that they knew historically were undercounted. And since January, they've been knocking on doors. They get as many volunteers as they can, but the two of them have been going out every Saturday and Sunday, knocking on doors, explaining what the census is, trying to get people to understand that it's important that they count, that they get counted. So they've been focused on those undercounted census tracts in Norcross, but they also have made up a lot of signs and banners that say, like, hashtag Norcross counts. So we could do some of those similar things and start putting them around the city, to make people aware that the census is coming.
Because what I did, I sent out an email to the churches,
Uh-huh.
and, I've got some response back, yes, we got it, we'll give the information, pass the information. Aside from that, the farmers markets.
Yeah,
So,
so it's like the churches and the schools, they've been doing talks
Yeah.
and presentations to all of those different groups. But I like the idea of the signs that they had. And, so we could, you can get a couple of those printed for nothing, or close to
You don't
nothing.
count unless you're counted.
Well, how do we find out which census tracts have been underreported? How
We just have to look at the census tracts that we have and figure out which ones, might be an
I
issue.
usually consider that type to be your minority census tracts.
okay,
Which 10 years ago
yeah.
is very different from today.
Yeah,
So.
Right.
we can look at the new demographics.
Without a census, I don't
Yeah.
know that we would know where to go.
I think I know where to go.
We would.
I will know where to
I know
go.
where to go.
I know
Okay,
exactly
David-
where to
Definitely,
David-
go.
probably, all the apartments on,
Yeah.
on Lenore Church.
Summit Chase is really bad too.
Probably is.
But they were concentrated, they've actually hit a lot of single-family residences, but their goal is to try to knock on all the doors of all the apartments and the
Yeah,
duplexes, and
Norcross
they have
is-
a lot.
Yeah,
Norcross is a different animal.
and the extended
Extended
stay.
stays.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've got a
I
lot
guarantee you those are undercounted.
over there, but this is kind of what led them to that, was when they did that survey of the extended stays. The women that are running the census count thing, or I think two of the people very involved in that. So, but they are doing some things, we could get you their name.
Okay.
But to me, just the signs would be cool to be able to get some of those printed and put around the city.
And I can tell you, Todd, when we show up at the summer farmer's market with the sock and everything on there, people still don't stop. You gotta go out and grab them. I mean, that's the only way you're gonna talk to them.
I mean, yeah, I was reading the man.
Oh, yeah, that's what you
I
gotta
was
do.
doing a
Well,
good sales
that's
pitch,
what
like
you
a,
gotta
like
do.
an advertisement pitch.
We,
Yeah.
So they were,
Something free.
we live in a
Or
little
little
different
snacks or
community
something.
than we used to.
Bubbles and water
And my
next to
concern is if we don't actually show that we're supporting the census
census?
and the counting, that we will look like we didn't care. And the last thing I want us to do is guarantee that we're gonna take heat about not taking it seriously.
Well, we've been involved in this effort with the county since the beginning, so,
Well-
and I appreciate everything Solange and Brian is doing lately, and we definitely will work on those sides.
Mayor, can I take it back one? Just to remind all of mayor and council, the tactical urbanism project is on track to be started to be painted this Saturday morning at 8 o'clock.
Awesome.
Oh,
Okay.
So barring rain, you're all invited to just
Well,
come.
that's a
encourage the
big
students.
question mark right there, lately.
Yeah,
But they are on track to, I suspect, to do the painting this Saturday morning starting at
Cool.
8.
Awesome.
Kids are gonna start at 8.
That's what Kelly said.
Kelly's gonna start at 8. Good for her.
Got your paintbrush?
I would not really be helpful, I'm afraid.
that's the only day we could
Is-
sleep in.
No, it's
Does
Friday.
that surface need to be pressure washed before they go out and paint to extend the longevity of it?
Probably to extend the longevity of it. This is not supposed to be a
Okay.
permanent project. I've been trying to decide whether that's the distance we wanted to go or not. I think for this first one, if it starts to come out in a little bit, then we can power wash it off
Okay,
and see where it goes. But
yeah, good point.
it could be, I mean, if you really wanted to stick for a while, I think that would be a good move, but if these are really meant to be
See
more
it
on
first.
the temporary side. They are using a more permanent paint, so I'm thinking dust
We're
underneath
not using
there
chalk.
might help us in the end.
No
Or
chalk.
maybe once we not resurface, but what's the word I want? Seal.
Clean.
When we reseal the parking lot, it'll cover it up,
Yeah.
whenever that comes, so.
And there's no
Yeah,
homeless
the-
people in this one, right?
It's
The
temporary.
parking lot, yeah, I wouldn't do any, but the concrete,
Yeah,
but,
the sidewalk.
yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted you to all be aware, it's coming Saturday at 8.
Okay.
the UDO, we need to make sure thoughts like we had a little while ago are incorporated before we get to final adoption. We have met and given Caleb some final direction, if you will. So hopefully that will be coming up soon. Snellville Days, there's really, the plans are ongoing in the Parks and Rec. Overall discussion need to take place shortly thereafter when we talk about the future. Snellville Youth Commission plan, I know they've been busy lately.
Can we take that off?
Yeah,
the
I mean,
project list?
that's something that it may happen next
We
year.
know exactly where we're going.
Yeah.
After that youth summit, I could not be more pleased.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We are addressing commercial property code enforcement when we get referrals. SDS is adopted now. I put it on my calendar, so a year from I forget the exact date, but we will put commercial annexation back on the list.
We'll be dealing with a whole new commission,
Yep.
county commission. by then.
Special event coordination, it kind of ties into the second item on the work session discussion. When it comes to there was a request last year, and it's back again, for the Atlanta United Watch Party. We would like to be able to serve beer and wine like at stat events in a confined area. That'd be the only event in Briscoe that needs that. But I am making that request on Lisa's behalf. We think it'd be a lot more successful event with that available.
So are y'all okay if that comes forward?
Yes.
As a-
Yeah.
I just let you know I will not be supporting allowing alcohol sales at the park.
but there's 4 to consensus to move on.
We'll,
So we just
Bring
need to
that-
update the ordinance.
It's just for the one special event we're talking about alcohol, right? Okay.
for the soccer watch party.
Although it might make Snellville days a lot more fun.
Make it a lot more successful.
No doubt.
Extend the hours. The,
No, just push them to a different time.
Well, you know, up north, we do the beer garden, so
Yeah.
if you wanna go there.
and, ordinance review, the legislature is still in session. We're winning some and losing others. So we'll see where, what happens in the end.
Okay. So Butch took care of item B, the update on TW Briscoe Park events. The final monument sign plan for Tom's Car Wash.
This came, we made it clear, we didn't want the major change. I guess, is it Todd Vaught who did our wayfinding signage? He's also working with them on this sign, and I wanted to make sure, Jason wanted to make sure that you saw the final version that was in your packet. Just wanted some comments to see if there were any questions. It's almost the exact same sign that was approved initially.
The only thing I would comment on is it is 4 inches shorter when I looked at all the numbers.
Few inches.
How many hay bales is that?
Yeah, was it worth the hay bale debacle?
Oh, I
Just
mean,
a
I think
piece.
it provided good scale.
Okay.
I think we learned something from that.
Why is it 4 inches shorter? Just because?
Just, I think Barbara made a good point earlier, she was talking about landscaping. The landscaping will be there, we'll make sure that they comply with the landscaping plan. In my mind, it's probably just with the scale of the car wash building.
So in other words, they want better sightlines. 4 inches.
That's
So what?
basically what the 4 inches
Yeah,
accomplishes.
it's gonna look just like the other signs, so I think that's,
Good.
Well, just as a comment to that, this sign out here is brick and granite. The one they've drawn, if you look, is all granite.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Looks
Which
good,
I'm
though.
not sure I would be opposed to that, but I wanted you to know that there is that difference if you hadn't noticed it then.
No,
I didn't
I
notice it.
noticed, but I kind of like the granite better. Now they're paying for this, right?
Yes.
Granite, love the granite.
Yes, yes. Okay. All right. That concludes this. Oh, do we have the executive session thing to read?
I do not, but, we definitely need the executive
Yes,
session.
we do.
Is this it? Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah, but that's
No,
not
the
what we're voting on.
documents, the,
Oh,
Mayor, we have 3 items which fall into the category of potential litigation that I recommend that we go into executive session to talk about there within the privilege.
Okay.
Let me see if we can pull that real quick.
I just don't have the thing that we read.
You just need a motion to go into executive session now. We've announced,
Okay.
we've announced the cause, the reason why we're going into free litigation.
Motion to go in executive session.
There's a
Sec-
motion to go in
second.
in a second. Got Dave and Gretchen. All in favor, please raise your hand. That's 6-0. So we'll go into executive.
If we could,
Thereupon, all others left the room.
let's just make sure we get a
Except those.
page
Yes, I
signed
remember
by